Have you ever imagined a school that takes you to travel around the world? 21st Century Voyage is an experiential education that takes you to navigate the triumph, catastrophes, and complexities of human civilizations. Within the time span of 4 years, students will travel to 6 continents and 30 different countries for their studies. Students will visit local landmarks from museums, night markets, universities to company headquarters. They will familiarize themselves with city's history and contemporary development. We believe these first-hand insights are valuable memories that can enrich their study of traditional subjects like economics, geography, and foreign languages. In this presentation, we will introduce you to the itinerary and curriculum of the first academic year. Freshman year's geographic region is East Asia, Southeast Asia, and Oceania. Students will move to 6 different countries and 10 different cities within 9 months. These destinations include Seoul in South Korea, Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka in Japan, Singapore, Sydney and Melbourne in Australia, Hanoi in Vietnam, Hong Kong and Shanghai in China. In the first academic year, students will take 5 AP classes alongside the study of 1 foreign language. This year's courses include microeconomics, macroeconomics, a selection between Korean and Japanese, environmental sciences, human geography, and biology. We began our journey in Seoul, South Korea. In the last 6 decades, the country has transformed itself from one of the world's poorest nations to a global cultural and economic powerhouse. Korea's famous story is characterized as the miracle on the Han River. The theme for week 1 is Cool Korea, a capitalist Arcadia. This week, students will arrive at the Incheon airport. From then on, they will visit the Gangnam District, Starfield COEX Mall, Myeongdong, Itaewon, and Dongdaemun Design Plaza. Students will conduct independent research on the economic history of South Korea. They will also learn about the key events and leaders that changed the trajectory of South Korean economy. Students will document the culture shock, price level, and evidence of globalization that they encountered in their own shopping experiences. The topic of week 2 is Korean Kaleidoscope, a panoramic imagination. This week, students will visit Lot Road, Namsan Seoul Tower, Lot World Tower, and the headquarters of SM, YG, and JYP. Students will learn about the urban planning philosophy of Seoul. They will also navigate Korean entertainment agents' historical development and contemporary business model. They will describe the imaginary and pragmatism captured in the Lost World. They will discuss K-pop's role as Korean culture ambassador on the global stage, South Korea's soft power and public diplomacy. They will also reflect on K-pop industry's influence on domestic beauty standards, body image dysmorphia, societal expectations, and gender roles. During week 3, students will visit the most prestigious Korean universities: Seoul National University, Korea University, and Yonsei University. Their acronym, SKY, is also a symbol of the Korean Ivy League. Students' assignments include to research the history of SKY's establishments, compare their university's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. They will record the data of SKY's acceptance rate, graduation rate, and rankings in the QS World University Ranking, so they can compare SKY to other global universities. They will describe South Korea's college admission process and the impact of wealth on college admission. Last but not the least, They will identify the most popular majors, occupations, and industries among SKY students. The theme for week 4 is Modern Korean Dilemma, a Chaebol Empire. During this week, students will visit the headquarters of some of the largest conglomerates, including Samsung, Hyundai, and LG. Students are obligated to research the history of Samsung, Hyundai, LG in relation to South Korea's economic history. They'll identify President Park Chung-hee's key policies that supported the expansion of chaebols from the 1960s to the 1980s. They will evaluate the pros and cons of strengthening chaebols for South Korea's economic development. They will describe chaebol as juggernauts in contemporary South Korean society and politics. They'll compare chaebols to Japan's Zaibatsu and China's state-owned enterprises. They'll record the percentage of South Korean GDP associated with the biggest chaebols and specify one controversy surrounding chaebol's existence in the last decade that led to a national debate about their presence. The theme for week 5 is Quotidian Seoul, living like a local. This week, students will visit Kwonjeon Night Market, Insadong, Lot Mart, Cheonggyecheong Streamtime Tour Night Market, and Nandaemun Market. Students will identify the most popular souvenirs sold in Insadong, pick two and elaborate on how the souvenir helped tourists remember their trip to Seoul. They will elaborate on the food staples that are essential to the Korean cuisine. They will also describe a section in the Lot Market that showcase both Korean idiosyncrasy and global influence. They will specify one section from the time travel traditional Korean performance in the Cheonggyecheong Streamtime Tour Night Market and how that informed them on the Korean history. Last but not least, they will juxtapose the food in these traditional markets to earlier visits in Itaewon and Myeongdong. They will compare how the Western influence is manifested in the younger generation of Korean food. The theme for week 6 is Domestic Korea vis-a-vis Global Korea. This week, students will visit the Blue House, Seoul Olympic Stadium, Seoul World Cup Stadium, and Gwanghwamun. Students will research the presidential election results from the 1980s to 2022. They will distinguish the main difference between conservative and liberal candidates. They will identify key issues that affect Korean citizens' votes in a presidential election. They will evaluate the narrative South Korean governments try to present in their Olympic and World Cup campaigns, describe the controversies surrounding the 2002 World Cup and Korean sportsmanship. They will compare South Korea's image in the 1988 Olympic Games versus the 2002 World Cup. Last but not least, they will elaborate on how Korean nationalism and patriotism are manifested in these sports games. Week 7's topic is Generational Heartache, the memorial of the Korean War. This week, students will visit DMZ, the Korean Demilitarized Zone, the War Memorial of Korea, War Museum of Korea, and the National Museum of Korea. Students will research the history of the Korean War and the chronic tension between North Korea and South Korea. They will describe the diplomatic endeavors for reconciliation in the last decade, compare North Korea and South Korea's economic development since their division, identify the key political and social barriers that prevent Korean unification. They will compare the modern-day Korean divide to the historical divide in Germany and Vietnam. They will also compare the Korean War to the Vietnam War. Last but not least, they will specify North Korea and South Korea's main political allies in contemporary international relations. The theme for week 8 is Once Upon a Time, This Was Our Taehanmingu. This week, students will visit Gyeongbokgung, Pukchong Hanok Village, Cheongdo-gung Palace, Myeongdong Nanta Theater, Seoul Museum of Art, and Seoul City Wall Trail. Students will research the history of the Nanta theater style, the history of Gyeongbokgung, Pukchong Hanok Village, Cheongdo-gung Palace, and Seoul City Wall Trail. They will elaborate on one art piece in the Seoul Museum of Art, explain the relationship between Korean society's historical emphasis on art and the rise of K-pop in modern times. They will compare Gyeongbokgung Palace to the Forbidden Palace in Beijing, Seoul City Wall to Beijing Ming City Wall. Compare the Nanta Theater to Peking Opera, and specify one tradition of Pukchong Hanok Village that has been modernized and adapted to Korean lifestyle.